Things have not been coming together for me for the past 2 years. I feel like, what is it called? Like a rut. I feel like I'm stuck in a rut again. Dare I say it? I think I'm in a millennial life crisis. Another one. I'm collecting millennial life crises as if they're little trophies here. Like I have got like a whole trophy shelf full of millennial life crises. So I won't get into the specifics of why, because it's really mundane. It's just not feeling it, not feeling it. That's why I don't give you guys any life advice, because I'm a freaking chaotic mess here. If you view life, or I view life as I'm sitting at a desk. I'm sitting at a desk in a cubicle, and I'm trying to clear my desk so I could go home for the weekend without anything hanging over me. This desk is never clear. There's piles of papers, files, and it's never, ever clear. And as I'm trying desperately to clear this desk, somebody's dumping more files on my desk all the time, burying the old files and dumping new files. And that's how I feel my quarter life crisis has gone. Like I developed my quarter life crisis while in college, and then it's never been addressed and it's never been cleared. And then along comes more crises, more folders, and I'm just drowning in all these folders. And that's how I feel. That's how I felt for 20 years, actually. And recently I went on vacation. It was like one of those milestone birthday vacations. I celebrated a milestone birthday, the big 4-0. I was sitting on the deck of a ferry, staring at the Pacific Northwest. It was beautiful, guys. The water was tranquil. I think I was at Puget Sound. The sunlight was glistening off the water. There was a whole horizon full of evergreen, and I could smell nature. There was a flock of geese flying overhead. There was a dolphin in the water. So for 2 years, I felt like I've had this gargantuan monkey fist on the back of my neck. I don't even know if you can imagine that. And I said to myself, self, you're going to sit here and you're going to figure out your life. You're going to figure out the direction of your life, and you're going to get it together. You're going to stop dealing with all this bullshit. And instead of thinking about deep, far-reaching existential thoughts, instead of figuring out the puzzle that is the mess that's inside my head, I thought about something completely irrelevant. And I feel like that describes this channel. I thought about all the cute outfits that I ever wore in my life, and what a shame it was that I don't have more pictures of my cute outfits. So today we're going to take a trip down memory lane. We're going to go 20 years back, and that's fashion history. 20 years back to where it all went horribly wrong. But I had some cute outfits while I was in the midst of embarking on the first of many, many life crises to come. My name is Teresa, and this is what I wore at UCLA. Go Bruins, yay. In 2004. What a shit title. In the spectrum of millennial life crises, I feel like I didn't really have it the worst. And I've suffered through it very gracefully, in that I suffered through it in silence. I never really broadcasted it online. I talk about it a little here and there on this channel. It's just something that is between you and me, but hopefully nobody I know. I have seen my fellow millennials, some of my fellow millennials, not all, just really lose it. And the worst offender being the millennials who do TikTok dances. I've seen them TikTok dance with each other, like group TikTok dances. It's like we're taking the flash mob that was so cool in our generation, and they're just moving that to TikTok. Couples TikTok dancing in public on a train, bothering people with their TikTok dances. I saw this one lady, she was dressed up like she was Britney Spears, and she was singing Baby One More Time or something in her closet, in her millennial gray closet. And oh God. You guys are embarrassing your children. If I were the child of a millennial parent who does like TikTok dances, I would be so embarrassed. And your friends are gonna see, didn't I see your mom do her Britney Spears dance? Oh my God. It's traumatic. Like, I am so glad that I have a crisis so hard that I start dancing for views. So I feel like millennials, not everybody, not all the millennials, there's many millennials. Like many of my friends are just living regular lives and working, 9 to 5s. They don't even have Instagrams. They barely have Facebooks. I feel like there's the large segment of millennials that are just hungry for attention, hungry for views, fame monglers in a way. We're hungry for views. So I guess it's a good thing that I make videos about topics so obscure, like Baroque fashion history, that I am guaranteed never to get any. So that was kind of a nihilistic take. But let's get back on track here. Let's go down memory lane to when I was a starry-eyed undergrad at UCLA. And for those of you that don't know what UCLA stand for or have never heard of UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. So why did I choose 2004? Well, I feel like it was right in the meat of things. I was at UCLA as a freshman starting 2002 and I graduated 2006. So 2004 is right in the meat of things, right in the height of early 2000s culture. So let me just set the scene of what it was like to go to UCLA in the early 2000s, in the Y2K era. So UCLA is in the city of Westwood. There was a lot of movie theaters, and that is where a lot of Hollywood red carpet premieres happen. There's the famous Fox Theater, there's theaters all around. And during the early 2000s, it was a huge celebrity paparazzi culture. Paparazzi is really hounding the celebrities like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie and Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan. It was like that time, that era, right? I have never been a big celebrity person. I'm okay with not meeting any celebrities that I like. I don't want to meet them and then find out they're jerks or anything. So I've only gone to 2 movie premieres, and it all happened during my first year of college because it was very new. You kind of initiate into this LA movie lifestyle. And bear in mind, I'm not like some Midwestern girl that went to LA for the first time. I've lived in Southern California my entire life. What non-California residents don't know is that when you're in California, most of the time you're living like a normal life. My world was oil rigs and shipping containers and smoggy freeways. There's palm trees, but it's palm trees in front of a gas refinery, that kind of thing. So during my first year, just as a floor bonding experience, we went to our first movie premiere. That movie premiere was 8 Mile. That's how ancient I feel. And the second movie premiere I went to, and I had a really good seat. I think I sat on a mailbox or something. The Matrix Reloaded, the second Matrix. Gmail came out in 2005, and at that time it was invitation only. So for the first half of my university experience, what kind of email was I using? I was using, UCLA gave you a UCLA email, but I wasn't really using that. I was using AOL. There was no social media to speak of. Facebook had just begun. We were living in the thick of whatever happened in the social network. Facebook was also invitation only, and you had to have a EDU email. You had to be a college student at the time. And at the time, I remember signing up to it. And most of my friends and we didn't even really know what to do with it. We just poked each other. YouTube came around 2005, but it wasn't until 2006, the year of my graduation, that I kind of passively started using YouTube. The first few videos that I ever searched and watched on YouTube religiously, it was the Tony performance of Defying Gravity with Christian Chenoweth and Idina Menzel. I would just use YouTube to look up recordings of Broadway musicals. Mostly Wicked. I was big into Wicked. Wicked was the CD I played in my CD player over and over and over and over again. So you could kind of tell what kind of person I am. I'm really into show tunes. You were only allowed to dorm for 2 years at the time. There wasn't enough dorms. And I stayed at Sproul Hall. I was on the 2nd floor. And they began doing construction of the lobby of Sproul Hall all through my last year there. So for an entire year, all I heard was jackhammering. It's a good thing I'm hard of hearing, or maybe because of that, I'm hard of hearing. But I never got to enjoy any of the new amenities that I suffered through at this dorm. So UCLA is divided into North Campus, which is mostly where all the classes of liberal arts majors were held. And then South Campus, which is mostly where the science and mathematics were held. And And I was a science major, so I spent most of my time in South Campus, but I took like a bunch of North Campus liberal arts classes for GEs, or just because I find that liberal arts classes are really easy. Science classes are hard, like they're weeder classes, so I would always pack my schedule 2 or 3 science classes and then 1 or 2 liberal arts classes to bolster my GPA. And I would just neglect the liberal arts classes until I had to write a paper. Like writing papers really came easily to me, but science didn't come so easily to me. But for some reason, I was a science major. The ironic thing is I didn't even want to be a science major, but there was a lot of pressure as a first generation Asian American to be a doctor, be pre-med. And a lot of the times, a lot of people who entered school as pre-med got weeded out because the science classes were notoriously hard. For some reason, I just kept getting good grades. Not because I love science, it's because I am OCD and I need to get an A. When you look at the transcript, the A's make a straight line. I see it as birds on a telephone wire, and if you drop below an A, I'll just freak out. So I was very high strung. I had to get an A. My parents and I were just have this giant arguments about I want to change my major. I wanted to be a writer, except that I didn't want to write serious novels. I wanted to write romance novels. So having taken a bunch of English classes, I realized that in order to be a romance novelist, one doesn't necessarily need to be an English major. So anyways, this is neither here or there, but that was the crux of my issues. I was living this lie of being a science major and taking these extremely hard science classes, which didn't come naturally to me. If I had to be gifted in anything, I am gifted in writing and I am gifted in remembering trivial information. But science took some work on my part, but I stayed in the running because I was so OCD that I cannot handle getting anything less than a B in science. And if you've ever been a science major at UCLA, you'll know what I'm talking about. Some classes are extremely hard. I'm not bragging here, but there was this class called biochemistry, biochem 153A, and it was notoriously the hardest class. At some point, I transcended biochem. I was biochem. That when I took the final, usually finals take about 3 hours. For this, everybody worked to the last minute. I finished the final in 2 hours. And I remember walking my final up to the proctor or something, and then everybody's like, oh, what the hell? So I think that my main issue with my life was that I was trying to be something that I didn't want to be, but instead of being bad at it, if I had just been bad at science, I just got horrible grades, then I would have probably been happier. I would have switched my major to something a little easier. But because I was such a perfectionist and kind of just, I would say book smart at the time. I'm not very book smart now. I kept getting good grades, and it was the good grades that screwed me. Let me tell you this, being an A student is not a gift. It is a curse. It is a curse in this situation when you don't know what to do with your life, because you're just going to fall back on getting A's for no reason. You can't see the forest from the trees. For most of the time at UCLA, I had a good time, but I was a ball of anxiety. While I was taking all these really hard classes, we were on a quarter system. So we had 3 quarters out of the year. It was about 10 weeks for the quarter system. And for science classes, the moment you get into the class, you have a midterm in 2 weeks, and then you have another midterm in 2 weeks, and then it was the final, and then you're done with the class, and then you move on to another class where you kind of have to relearn. You're in this never-ending hamster wheel of studying. If you go to UCLA and you're a science major, if you're watching this, then you know what I'm talking about. I had straight A's, and it was awful. It was awful. I felt like I was in a prison. I had equal parts loan and equal parts scholarship, and I had to maintain a certain GPA in order to keep these scholarships, or I will be out financial aid. Because I remember going through South Campus, going to finals week, I would walk by other students and they will be crying. They'll come out, they'll pass by me. They just took their final. They're crying. They're bawling because they think they failed their final. It was a lot of pressure. And then during my second year, oh my God, there was one time, I don't know what it was. I was so stressed out that I couldn't sleep for a week. Or maybe a week and a half. You are trying to study for something that you don't want to do. I honestly, for that week, I was feeling some darkness that I am not even at liberty to tell you. I mean, I can tell you, but I'm totally going to get demonetized if I told you. If you ever know anybody who is like a type A personality and they seem perfect on the outside, I see you. If you are that person, I see you. You're going through it. It all leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And the liberal arts classes were there, and I would just neglect it until I had to write a paper, and then I would just write the paper 2 days ahead of time. I never did anything overnight. I always planned. If I am gifted at anything, it's not science. I am gifted at writing papers, which means I'm gifted at bullshitting. So while I had some dark times and I was living in a perpetual sense of anxiety and dread while I was a student at UCLA, I also had some great times. I met my husband, who's my boyfriend, all through UCLA, and we were like kids in love. We explored all of LA, more so than the average UCLA student. We got on the big blue bus, and at that time, if you have a student ID card, it was only a quarter. You dropped a quarter in to ride the big blue bus, took it to Santa Monica, hung out in Santa Monica, 3rd Street Promenade, hung out in Venice. We explored the metro system of LA. Did you know that there's a subway in LA? Right now, the subway is kind of like a moving homeless encampment. At the time, it was like 70% safe. We went all over LA as far as public transportation will take us. We even went to Pasadena. We've explored all of LA prior to the gentrification of most places in LA. Basically, you know that movie Collateral? LA looks different now, but that was basically what our version of LA is, the early 2000s version of LA. We had LA all to ourselves. We were like early 2000s kids in love with our vans. My husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he had spiky hair and a puka shell necklace at the time and some skater shoes. So let's talk about what I wore at UCLA. So I sat down and did a quick brainstorm of all the various clothing items that I could remember wearing at UCLA. And I didn't consult pictures because to be honest, I did not take many photos. And this just goes to show how far back we're going here, in that like during college, I never even owned a digital camera. I didn't take many photos of myself. Like I didn't take many outfit photos. Like I was usually the tiny little dot in a group photo. See this digital camera behind me? That was my first digital camera, and I didn't get that till 2010. I had a little disposable camera film, and I had to be selective of the photos I took. I think I wasted some taking photos of the beach, and then when it develops, it's just like, what am I looking at here? What beach are we in? That is a long way of saying that I don't have many photos to go by, but for some reason, because I like to remember trivial information, especially when in relation to fashion, I remember to a startling degree of accuracy the clothing I used to wear. And when I see my college wardrobe versus my high school wardrobe, my college wardrobe is kind of in reaction to what I wore in high school. And what I wore in high school can be summed up in one word: baggy. I wore baggy clothes in high school. It was the fashion of the time. Cargo pants and Jinko jeans and parachute pants were at their widest around 1999, 2000. So like during sophomore year of high school, my outfit consisted of like wide leg jeans or some cargo pants and a hoodie sweatshirt, or like a Nike windbreaker over a hoodie sweatshirt. But on the inside, my tops, which were from Forever 21, they were tight. They were like the 3/4 sleeve boat neck tops, or just like a deep scoop. And the reason why I wore baggy clothes in high school, number one, is because of the fashion. But number two, it's because I was always cold. I was very, 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 very cold. All the time. I had zero period. Like school started, I had to get up at 5:30. So I didn't really have time to think about what I was going to wear in the morning. I was always in a rush. My tops were cute on the inside, but I was very cold, so I never took off my sweatshirt. So when I went to college, I swore to myself I would dress cuter. So during this time, around 2004, the McBling style was in. We're talking about juicy velour tracksuits with juicy written on the bottom, or some koi saying like sweet. Low-rise boot-cut jeans with like a white belt and a tramp stamp, Von Dutch trucker hats, and blinged out Bebe logo shirts. The watches back then, the fashion watches, were of like a wide band. It was basically like a cuff bracelet watch. That look was in with celebrities and magazines and media, but what I saw boots on the ground on campus, I'll see it in pieces of clothing here and there, but nobody was doing the full McBling. I would see some sorority girls wearing juicy velour tracksuits, but usually they would just wear the pants portion of the tracksuit or the top portion with jeans. It was never the full tracksuit as you would see Britney Spears wear. I did see a lot of tramp stamps. There was a lot of low-rise jeans at this time. I don't have one, in case you're wondering. I do wonder, those of you who are my age, living it up in the early 2000s, if you got a tramp stamp, do you regret your tramp stamp? So McBling is the reference point that I want to guide you to. I saw it like 20% of the time, watered down. Nobody went full Paris Hilton. It was like one Von Dutch baby tee. There was a lot of low-rise jeans. There were some tramp stamps. I never saw any whale tails at UCLA. Maybe you saw them at USC. What I wore at this time was not McBling at all. I cannot handle bedazzle. There was a lot of people in sweatshirts and sweatpants. You know, the sweatpants with the UCLA, which is UCLA emblazoned on the leg. This just goes to show how unschool spirited I am, or maybe just really cheap, in that I didn't, during my whole time there, I didn't even wear a UCLA sweatshirt. I spent all of high school with my hood up in a sweatshirt, lost in my clothes. I wanted to look cute at UCLA. There was a big hibiscus print boom going on in terms of clothing for girls at the time, for women, for girls. So a lot of the UCLA sweatshirts for women had UCLA with some hibiscus flowers. One of my favorite tops around 2004 was this bright red spaghetti tank top full of hibiscus flowers. It was like I was going on a Hawaiian vacation. So when I wore this hibiscus Hawaiian tank top, bright cherry red, I thought it was scandalous because, you know, when I went to high school, like we weren't even allowed to wear spaghetti strap tank tops to school. We would get sent home if our bra was showing. And guess what? When I was at UCLA, what did I wear under this tank top? I didn't even wear a bra. It had and don't get too riled up here, it had one of those built-in bras. I'm so demure. I felt like I was showing so much skin wearing a tank top at that time. One of my favorite pairs of pants that I wore to death were some light wash LEI bootcut jeans that I got at Robinson's May. You know, Robinson's May doesn't exist anymore. They have seen many, many seats on the bus, on the metro, in the subway. And at some point, I wore them so much, there was a tear under the back pocket. Instead of discarding the jeans, I sewed it back up, went out with them again. So they were my favorite pair of jeans. They were very comfortable. They were very tight. So I was like very obsessed with wearing very tight clothes in the early 2000s as a reaction against all the baggy clothes I wore during high school. I wouldn't buy a top that wasn't form-fitting, and then my jeans were very tight, and they were all boot cut in some ways. Somewhere in Ross, I found a pair of parachute pants that I wore all through the latter half of college. They had the ability to roll them up and then button them so that they could become shorter for when you're walking along the beach. And they were very useful during this one field trip in marine biology class where I waded in the tide pools so I could measure where the barnacles were growing in relation to the tide. You know, guys, I literally can sit here and recount to you all the shoes I ever wore. It'll be fun for me, but torture for you. But I'm just going to pare it down by saying that I had a favorite pair of Vans. I only owned 2 pairs of Vans in my life, and they were all during my college years. My favorite pair of Vans were these white Vans with the blue V. I wore them everywhere. They got really beat up. The final death nail to these shoes was during that same ill-fated marine biology trip. A wave came, got them all wet, and by that time, it was over. For the most part in college, I wore very basic clothes. The silhouettes might have changed, but the clothes were the same, and I usually stuck to solid colors or stripes, and only recently did I start getting into wearing vintage 90s clothes or vintage 80s clothes. This sweatshirt, for instance, with the space theme, I would never dream about wearing that during college. It would be too much for me, kind of too childish. In actuality, this belonged to an actual child. It belonged to my husband when he was 10 years old. He was tall for a 10-year-old. So now I think my style is 10-year-old 90s boy. Because I stick to solids, I stick to stripes, I avoid logos. I had some weak moments, had exactly 3 shirts with logos, and they were all Roxy or Quicksilver or something. And I got them at I think I got them at Ross. They looked good with my parachute pants. Looking back at some of these photos, I had like a bra support problem back then. And it looked like I didn't wear a bra, but I wore a bra. It was just really ill-fitting. That just goes to show you got to get a good bra. And I also had a problem in which if I found a t-shirt that I thought looked good on me, I would buy 2 of them in different colors. I would buy some of my clothes from those random boutiques at the mall, like Rave or something. They would have these like 2 for $10 sales or 2 for $12 sales. Since I like just basic t-shirts, I would buy them in multiples. A pair of tank tops that I had that was aqua blue and puke green. And I was also into peasant tops at that time. My favorite being this lavender color that I got at the discount rack of Forever 21. So I think I probably paid less than $10. At Forever 21, it was always like $5.80. It was always some number and 80 cents. I haven't been to Forever 21 since college. So it's been over 20 something years. Never been. My piece de resistance, my favorite top of all during this time. I don't even know where I got it. Maybe my mom got it for me. It was this magenta top that was very form-fitting, kind of like a bodysuit, tied here with a bow. And I call this my booby top, my va-va-va-voom top, because it gave me the best cleavage. I was like a B cup that looked like an A cup, but in this top, I could almost be a C cup. I want to go back to shoes. I had my canvas courtside sneakers from Payless that were slightly platformed, black platform loafers, a beige platform slide from Payless, which a couple years ago I was browsing the Target shoe aisle and I found them again. They made a comeback, which is really freaky. In fact, a lot of the Y2K fashion comebacks I see nowadays, it really throws me for a loop. What year is this? Is this 2004? Is it 2025? I don't like wearing flip-flops outside because I think like I am bothered by feet. Oh my God. At UCLA, there was this one dude and he would walk around campus barefoot. You know, he would go to class barefoot. He would walk around campus barefoot and it really disgusted me. Like whenever our paths crossed, my eyes would immediately dart to his feet. Not that I have a foot fetish, but I just really hate feet. I really hate like the look of dirty feet and dry feet. And he had both. There was like plenty of other guys in their flip-flops. It was distracting, to be honest, like during discussion classes. Sometimes I can't even pay attention. I would just, nasty. They would just take out their like flip-flop would just fall on the ground and then their feet would be out there. My husband, by the way, has great feet. That was one of the things I scoped out. Feet is a deal breaker for me, I would say. If I were like out in the dating market right now, like online dating, I'm gonna have to ask for private photos of your feet. Not because of the foot fetish, but just to make sure that you're taking care of them. If you don't take care of your feet, what else are you not taking care of? What the hell am I talking about? So moving on, the glasses I wore during the early 2000s were so nerdy. They were like the nerdy wireframe glasses that you got for free because insurance covered it. It was like the kids section glasses. They're so South Campus, so science major. I didn't have any anti-glare on my glasses, so every time I took photos with my glasses, you can't ever see my eyes. I rarely photographed myself with glasses. Like I would wear them, but whenever I took a photo, I would always take them off. And then sometimes I would be caught with them on and I would always regret it. Like these glasses. Other than your standard black Jan Sport backpack that I carried all through college and high school, I carried a baguette bag. It wasn't like the Dior saddle bag or something that's popular now. It was like a nude color or a beige color baguette bag. It was super cheap. At some point at Target, I got like a black mini backpack and that's what I carried as we explored LA. That's what I wore, the black mini backpack. And I love that backpack. It was so versatile. It was backpack, it was purse. It had like a secret compartment for your wallet. Oh, speaking of wallets, I had a total of 3 wallets. I went through 3 wallets at the time. One was like a UCLA card holder. It was like a very basic card holder that you got during orientation. Another one was this white, Volcom. Yeah, I think it's Volcom. It's a white Volcom trifold wallet. Then I had like a Roxy. This came as a kid. It came with a belt and it came with a wallet. It was like something you picked up at Ross for $6.99, but it was was a Velcro trifold wallet. Let's move on to pajamas, because I will always regret giving away these pajamas, because my first year of college, my mom bought me 2 pajama sets, top and bottom. And they were so cute. A purple sun and moon celestial pajama set. And another one was this like super warm and fuzzy teddy bear having coffee pajama set. That's what I would wear around the dorms as I'm just, hanging around studying. And they were so cute. And I really, really regret giving them away, like purging them from my closet. Looking back at my time there, at my outfits there, even taking into account the dark turn in my story at the beginning, I look back at my time there with fondness. But I do have one regret. What I wish desperately, something that can never be granted to me because it plays with time, and time is something that you can never get back, is that, that whole saying of youth is wasted on the young. It really is true. It really is true, because when I was going there, when I was 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, I don't know if I've ever appreciated being young and just being a college student at UCLA. I never just took a step back from the frenzy of it all, the rush of it all, the worrying about my future. I never just lived in the present. But for most of it, I felt like I was caught up in the stress of it all and the frenzy and the pressure cooker of my own making. None of the stress I felt at UCLA was because of any exterior force. Like, UCLA was as easy or as hard as you could make it. And in many ways, like for my North Campus humanities classes, I was not stressed at all. I just went to the class, I ignored it until I had to do a paper, and then there it was. I didn't really think too much about it. But for some reason, I amped up the stress of these science classes. It was a complete imposter syndrome situation going on. I was smart enough to ace these classes, and I have the grades to show for it, but then even getting a quarter full of A's wasn't good enough for me. Like, I still felt that I was stupid. One day somebody's just gonna find me out and realize that I don't have the creds to be here and kick me out, and that was just major imposter syndrome on my part. So I'm actually coming to a lot of realizations from this silly little video talking about clothes. Like, I'm literally unraveling many layers of deep-rooted psychology, of imposter syndrome, of living in dread of the future and in regret of the past, but never really living in the present. And this is deeper than this channel could ever handle. So I think it's time for me to go. I need to figure some stuff out, but it seems to me like I've already kind of figured it out. And that's thanks to you. You guys are the best therapists ever. You guys are free. I can't afford therapy. So now I have you. Now that I've fashioned and trauma dumped on you, you can feel free to trauma dump on me in the comments down below. Tell me about your college experience. What kind of issues were you facing? Or if you never had a college experience, what kind of issues were you facing? Or if you're currently in college, what kind of issues are you facing? I've trauma dumped on you. It's time for you to trauma dump on me. I'm not a licensed therapist, so I don't really know how to fix your problem, but if you just need somebody to hear you out, then feel free to use the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe. If you've enjoyed this video or you've enjoyed me, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see ya next time. You guys are such good therapy.